Namaste. Pranavam Pavanakuma Kalabana Pavaka Jnanagram Jasuhradaga Basin Ram Sarachabadhar Atulita Baladhama Himshala Badeham Danujavana Krishna Jnaninam Graganyam Sakalaguna Nidhanam Vanaranam Adhisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Atajatam Namani Pushpadi Kritavarisham Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Ande Nilatmajam Anjana Nandaram Veera Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisamaksahanta Ande Lanka Ankaram Langya Sindho Salilam Salilam Yashokavahi Janakatma Jaya Adayatane Dadahalanka Namamitam Pranjali Aranjaneyam Manojavam Marutulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Vardishtam Patatmajam Vanardutam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Anjaneya Matipatalana Kanchanadri Kamaniya Vigraham Parijata Taramula Vasanam Bhavayami Pavamana Nandanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kritamastakhanjalim Vashpavare Paripurna Lochanam Marthinamat Rakshasantakam Bolo Bajranga Bali Hanuman ki jai. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, Sitaram. Sitaram, yeah, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yeah, Sitaram. Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai 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 Sitaram. Sitaram, Jai Sitaram, Sitaram, Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai 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 Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, yeah. Sitaram, 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 yeah, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yes, Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 yeah, Sitaram. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai 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 Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai. Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hare. Rama bolo, Rama bolo, bolo bolo Rama. Rama bolo, Rama bolo, bolo bolo Rama. Hey Rama bolo. Sita bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Sita bolo, bolo, bolo Ram. Rama bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Rama bolo, bolo, bolo Ram. Hey Rama. Hanuman bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Hanuman bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Hanuman bolo. Hey Rama bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Hare Rama bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Lakshman bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Lakshman bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Lakshman bolo. Hey Rama bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Rama bolo, bolo, bolo Rama. Hey Rama bolo. Rama Lakshman Janaki Jai Bolo Hanuman ki. 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 Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. 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 Sitaram, Sitaram, Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Rama. Sitaram, 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 Jai Rama. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Changing keys. Nandana Namo 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 Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Hanuman Jai Hanuman Jai Bajranga Bali Baba Hanuman Jai Bajranga Bali Jai Hanuman Sankatamochan Kripanidham Sankatamochan Kripanidham Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman 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 Jai Hanuman Jai Bajranga Bali Baba Hanuman Jai Bajranga Bali Jai Hanuman Karuna Sagara Kripanidham Karuna Sagara Kripanidham Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman 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 Gosai Kripa Karo Gurudev Kenai Sankatam Ochana Kripanidham Lala Langote Lal Nishan Yetziaram Jai Hanuman Yetziaram Jai Hanuman Yetziaram Jai Jai Hanuman Jai Siya Ram Hare Ram 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 Sita Ram 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 Hare Ram Sita Ram Hare Ram 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 Sita Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Sita Ram 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 Sitaram Ram Ram. Hare Rama Sitaram. Hare Rama 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 Sita Rama Rama Rama. Hare Rama 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 Sita Rama Rama Rama. Hare Rama 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 Sita Rama Rama Rama. Hare Rama Sita Rama. So, last night or early this morning, a very great Tibetan Lama has left the body. His name is Lama Zopa Rinpoche. One of the very great Lamas from the previous generation. When I was in Bodh Gaya in 1970, he and his guru, Lama Yeshe, his very close brother and guru, walked into Bodh Gaya from the train from the town, the big town nearby Gaya. They probably, maybe coming for the first time to Bodh Gaya, I'm not sure. But I remember that we saw them walking and we greeted them outside the Burmese Vihar where we were staying. Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa. Wonderful, great beings. So I just want to sing the mantra that's very dear to them, was Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So you can sing along with me. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum. Padme Hum. Om Mani 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 Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Okay. So, coming up soon, May 6th, stories and conversation with me and my old buddy, Guru Bhai Ramdev, who runs the Living and Dying Project. And they do great work with people who are entering the portal of rebirth. So and in hospice and dealing with those issues. So they do great work there. So Ramdev and I are going to talk. And then I'll be in Europe this summer from May 20th until July 22nd. Everywhere, or a lot of places anyway. So you can look online if you're out that way. Then this summer, of course, we're in Boone, North Carolina. Love, Serve, Remember Summer Mountain Retreat. Then in September at Omega Institute Chant Weekend. A couple of weeks after that, Bhakti Fest is back in Joshua Tree. Then in Kripalu, and then New York City, October 6th and 7th. So all that's up on the website. This looks interesting. When Jesus said that all our sins are forgiven, past, present, and future, how does that relate to karma? And how is it possible to work out all karma in each lifetime how is it possible to work out all of karma as in each lifetime we make new mistakes and have new desires? Is that thanks to grace? Wow, that's interesting. I don't know. However, I don't know. You know, the idea of sin is subtle. In Western religion and Christianity, they believe in mortal sin. In other words, you're born as a sinner and you must be redeemed. You must be liberated from those sins. One time, His Holiness the Dalai Lama was hosting a group of ministers from many different Christian sects. And one of the ministers said to him, Your Holiness, what's your idea of sin? And he was quiet for a minute, and then he said, it's kind of a Christian thing, isn't it? In Eastern religion, what you call Eastern religion, for the most part, does not believe in original sin, that we come into this world impure, so to speak, needing to be forgiven. But on the other hand, it is our own karmas that impel us to take birth again and again to work out that brings the fruit of our own actions that we need to work through. If we've done much damage to people and created much suffering, there's a good possibility that we will suffer in some way, or that will affect the way we're born and the way we live our lives and what happens to us. It's not like you push one button and something happens. It's much more deep and much more subtle. The laws of karma are very deep and subtle, and they say only a fully enlightened being can understand it completely. So, I don't know. Where did Jesus say that? Did he say it? Is it in the Gospels? Maybe. I'm not that familiar with them as to where he said all that, or who quoted him as saying that. Maybe St. Paul, but that's already something else. What Jesus said, I'd like to know what he really said exactly. That might be a little different than the way it came to us now, 22,000 years later. However, it is our own desires that create our own hunger and our own looking for happiness outside of ourselves that create more and more of that kind of suffering, because we can never find happiness outside of ourselves. We can never find true love, real love, as Sharon Salzberg would say, outside of ourself, because our self, our true nature is love. But we are cut off from that. We are looking out. We are not turned towards that place within us that is love. That's an interesting question, though. And as far as grace goes, that's also another very difficult thing to understand with the conceptual mind that we have. Our minds work a very low energy situation, very narrow bandwidth, and issues like grace and karma and all those kind of things, those are big bandwidth issues. Very hard to understand those things. When I was in India with Maharaji, a former girlfriend of mine committed suicide in America while I was in India. And it affected me a lot. I was kind of shocked. I was very shocked and disturbed by it. And so I went to Maharaji and I told him about it. And to ask for blessings for her. And he said, "Don't worry, she's okay. She'll be okay." And I said to him, "Will she have a good birth, rebirth?" And he said, "Yes, she'll have a good birth." That's the only time that I ever heard him speak about rebirth, reincarnation. I don't even remember him talking about that in any way around that I heard. And even the stories, very few of the stories I think ever mentioned that. He didn't speak about those things. So that was very powerful because, one of the things about suicide is supposed to be problematic in the sense that you've given up, and out of suffering and pain, you've ended your life. Some traditions say that's very bad. Other traditions say it's not that bad. Some traditions say the time of your death is written when you're born, and it doesn't really matter that much how you get there. Some traditions say things like that. So I don't really know. And as far as grace, I told you this before, but Maharaj used to say to us, he used to tease us, and he used to look at us and say, "I have the keys to the mind. I could turn your minds against me." And he would laugh and we would go, "Baba, don't do that, don't do that." And he would say, "I'll transfer you, transfer ho jayega, I'll transfer you." "Baba, don't do that." And he would laugh. So one day I said to Siddhima, I said, "Ma, Maharaji said that he has the keys to the mind," which I certainly believe. And to me I said to her, and to me that means that I am where, at least mentally, spiritually, I am where he puts me, where I'm supposed to be. In terms of what I know, what I don't know, what I do, what I don't do, all that stuff, and how I see the world, that's because he put me in this position. He puts me he's in charge of that, how I see the world. So I said, "Ma, what's the deal? Is it all his doing? Is it all grace? Or is my effort required?" She gave such a great answer. She said, "Krishna Das, it's all grace, but you have to act like it isn't." So, because we don't know that. And it's not enough to think it and to know it intellectually as a concept. When we fully, truly know everything it's all grace, it's all that the Lord, that God is doing everything. When we have that experience, that's one thing, but we don't have that experience. And so we have work to do in order to clean the mirror of our hearts so that we can have that experience and ultimately have that deepest merging and surrender. So, I don't know. They say that there's a certain amount of karma you're given to work out every birth, that we have a huge load of karma, but every birth there's just a certain amount that we work out, that we work with, that we're involved with. So that's a good question. I've always been curious as to why Maharaji would get ISKCON devotees to chant the Maha Mantra all day at the temples, as previously mentioned by me. Well, you go on and on with that? Let's see. I get that Krishna and Ram are one and have studied the ISKCON version where they have similar viewpoints, but as Sri Krishna Bhagavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my question is why the Maha Mantra and why not Sri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, which was close to Maharaji's heart? So you know what's close to Maharaji's heart? And you don't think Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare was close to his heart? I wonder why you think that. So that's what he did. I don't know why he did it. He did it. One time when he did it, he looked over me and goes, Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra, like it was a big secret. Maha Mantra. It's a great mantra. And those, the beings that sang the Maha Mantra in the temple were not necessarily ISKCON. They were Vaishnavas. They were from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lineage. But ISKCON is one part of that lineage, one limb of that lineage, not the whole. There were many different lineages coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they weren't ISKCON beings necessarily. They were Vaishnavas, of course, and they were in a lineage from Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I don't know. How do I attract Sangha? I often feel lonely on this path, as where I am, there are not any Hanuman followers or devotees. Well, you have a very limited idea of Sangha. There are human beings probably somewhere around you. And they are your brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers also. So if you see that, if you see other beings that way, you will find satsang. Now, they may not be doing Ram, 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 or meditating, or yoga, or whatever, but love lives within them the same way it lives within you. And when you can learn to see that and open to that, you won't be lonely. And as far as Sangha, yes, it's important on the path. But if you don't have it, you don't have it. What are you going to do? Sit around and moan and mope? No, do something. And don't think about yourself all the time. There's many things you can be doing, but the emotion of loneliness is an emotion. It's not reality. And if you get caught in that over and over, you know, satsang is not going to cure your loneliness, because your loneliness comes from the fact that you think you are who you think you are. Whatever your name is, however you see yourself, that's me, 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 me. And other people are them, 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 them. And you want them to be your satsang. What are you going to do if it's not happening? Either you move to where it's happening or you don't. It's up to you to make some decisions about that. But to mope around and just feel lonely all the time, that's a trip you're doing on yourself. We do lots of trips on ourselves that aren't really necessary, but we feel they're justified. So that's one of the ways we hurt ourselves, doing these kind of things. So I hope you do find some satsang, but if you think that's going to solve your problems, you're dreaming. Groups have as much problems as anything else. And as soon as there's an organization, there's problems. There's hierarchies. There's people in power. There's people without power. There's people getting this and not getting this. And it's a whole other ballpark of problems. So deal with the ones you have and see what happens. Somebody wants to know how to observe Hanuman Jayanti, which was April 6th. We do Hanuman Chalisa. That's what we do. I don't have a lot of pujas and formal rituals that I do. But Hanuman Chalisa is something that we have been given by Maharaji as a practice, as a blessing. So that's what we do, as much of that as we can. He didn't require lots of pujas and prayers. He was just completely beyond that level of stuff. He allowed people to do those things because they wanted to, and they got something from it. But he didn't require those things for himself. He allowed people to worship the way they wanted to worship, for the most part. Somebody's writing about substance abuse, wants me to reflect a bit about that period in my life when I was abusing substances. What do I think the root cause of the abuse was? Well, for me, I think the root cause of my abuse was hopelessness and karmic predisposition, psychological predisposition to substance abuse. My mother was an alcoholic. My father was not an alcoholic, but he was iffy with stuff. He had his issues, his dependency issues. But for me, when Maharaji left the body and left me, as I felt at that time, I had no hope in life. The pain was really almost unbearable. And it wasn't until I met cocaine that I really had a problem. Softer drugs, they didn't give me a problem. I didn't get dependent. But when I started to smoke freebase, which is the purest form of like crack, but it's completely pure. Crack is full of all kinds of poisons, and crack is full of bad stuff. That's pretty funny. It's bad stuff itself. And so is freebase, but freebase is pure bad stuff. So I became addicted immediately. I just went into it completely because it just numbed me out to my pain. It just separated me from my torture, the psychological torture that I was in. So I think hopelessness is a really big contributing factor to addiction. And most of the people in the world don't have much hope for real happiness. And they feel that they can't get what they need in life. And it's very difficult to find what you need in life, to have good, healthy relationships, to have joy in what you do. Very difficult. And so when something comes along that is going to just take all that worry away, it's hard to resist. Especially if your parents had those issues and you were brought up in a household where there was addiction. And as far as my sobriety, this is also, I can't take any credit for that. Mr. Tiwari, my Indian father, took my addiction away. He looked at me and he said, "Promise me now you will give up cocaine. Promise me now." And I love him more than anything. I could never say no to him. So I just said, okay. And from that moment, which was sometime in 83 or 84, until this moment, nothing. Absolutely gone. So I know that that's not, and I also know that if I could never do it myself. I don't think and if I did, it would be a constant battle like it is for many people. It's very hard. A constant battle with that. Once you go into that place, it's a very difficult place to stay out of, especially when we don't have the tools to live good lives, when we don't have faith and in truth, and we don't believe that there's something to find in life, that it's just more shit after more shit after more shit, and more suffering after more suffering, more frustration after more frustration, and more struggle and more struggle. That's how many people see their lives. And they squeeze out a little numb time, drinking or movies or this or that or whatever distractions you can muster up. But underneath that is a terrible hopelessness and a terrible lack of understanding about what's really possible in life. So there's no blame. It's really hard. So I don't feel like I'm answering anything today. I just feel like I'm blabbering on, but that's okay. Will I come to Australia? Well, it looks like I'm going to come to Australia. Can I say that? It's not set yet, but it looks like I think the end of October, beginning of November, I might be in Australia for 9 or 10 days. And I'll only be able to do 3, maybe 4 cities, but it's better than nothing. And that's all the time I'll have. So if you're there, hope to see you. What do I think of the law of attraction? I don't even know what that is. I've seen people who are always negative and get more negative, and people who are positive always seem to have things and go well for them. So it seems like maybe it is. But is it wrong to want material things for yourself? Not in an obsessive way, but a place to call home, a nice car. No, it's not wrong. But you usually have to do something to get those things, like work, like committing to doing certain things in life that will bring those things to you. On the other hand, they do say that karma plays a very big part in how our lives unfold. Some people seem to trip and fall in money. But you know what they say is that generosity is the cause of getting more money. So like in a previous life, if you were very generous, in this life, much money will come to you. That's what they say. And if you've been miserly, you could lose everything and money will not come to you. I've heard that said. Is it true? I don't know, but that's what I've heard. But why would it be wrong to want material things? You need to have food. You need to satisfy certain desires. What's wrong with that? What's wrong is excessive. What creates suffering is excessive too much stuff. For instance, I remember when I went to Hong Kong, I sang there some years ago. And there's a tram that goes like 45-degree angle up this mountain. And then you get to the top of the mountain, you can walk around and look down into Hong Kong, the city of Hong Kong, far below. So I was walking around and I came to this viewpoint and I was looking down into Hong Kong. And every block there was new construction. They were knocking down buildings and building taller buildings, and then knocking down this building, building taller buildings. And then in the harbor, there were boats coming from all directions. There were helicopters and airplanes, and it was unbelievable. And stuff was squeezed in, block after block, huge skyscrapers. And I just said to myself, what the fuck is this? How did this happen? I mean, you can live under a tree. All you have to do is eat, sleep, fucking piss and shit. That's it. How did this happen? More building, more stuff, blah, 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 blah. Greed. Greed and people not knowing how to find happiness. Thinking that happiness comes from more stuff. I sound like George Carlin. He's great. He was really great. Watch some of his stuff. So yeah, it was an amazing moment, you know. It was like people can't get enough. They never stop craving more stuff. And that's terrible, painful situation to have and to be in. But having a certain amount of stuff, what's the problem with that? Everybody, you would hope that everybody has what they need in life. It's not the case, but it doesn't mean we can't hope that and pray for that and do what we can to help other people find what they need in life. I do not believe that Neem Karoli Baba really existed as it is described as a miracle Baba. Is it possible for me to experience so I can believe? I don't know. Ask him. Talk to him. Say, I would like to know if you're real. And it's up to you to show me. How do I know if you're real? You have to prove to me you're real. You don't prove it, I don't believe it. It's up to you. That's what I would do. I have questions regarding women worshiping Hanuman. I read that women are not to worship Hanuman, yet can sing the Chalisa because he is celibate. I know deep in my heart, Maharaji is my guru, and I'd love to get your thoughts on God, goddess worship based on gender. Second, I learned that it is not advised to have Hanuman's photos in the bedroom. Do you know any traditional rules or energy rationale? Yeah, you know, I've heard those things too. I have a picture of Maharaji in the bathroom, actually, right next to the toilet, where I sit reading the newspaper, and it's a picture of him reading a book about Hanuman. So I like to look up to him and see, okay, you're reading about Hanuman, I'm reading the sports pages. See you later. You know, Indian culture can be very specific about things. But, so that's India. This is America. Fuck it. We'll do what we want. And Maharaji never forbid us to do anything. He never gave us rules and regulations. He said, these people's hearts are pure. They can do whatever they want. They can feed people. They can cook the food in the temple. They can distribute the prasad. They can sing kirtan. They can be the pujari and the priests of the Devi temple. They can do what they want because their hearts are pure. That's the only important thing. Now, I wouldn't say my heart is pure, but he said it about the Westerners. They left everything in America. All they want is God. We look at each other. Who's he talking about? If you're asking me, I'm saying forget that shit. And if you think Hanuman is limited to some version of a little monkey who jumps around and beats bad guys up, you're dreaming. Hanuman is the living presence within us. He's in the bedroom, he's in the kitchen, he's in the bathroom, he's in the supermarket, he's in a plane, he's in the car, he's everywhere, he's in the sky. He's in our mind and heart. Where are you going to go that your mind and heart is not going to be? So I wouldn't throw it in the face of somebody who believes those things and wants to follow those rules, but they're not for me. And Maharaji did not force us to adopt any kind of those rules. And that's the way I live my life. But I understand when Maharaji was teasing me about getting married, finally he kind of stopped. And so then one day he said, you're Bajrangbali. What's your name? I said, Krishna Das. Nay, Bajrangbali, which is the name of thunderbolt, lightning bolt bodied Hanuman, You're Bajrangbali. What's your name? I said, Krishna Das. Nay, Bajrangbali. What's your name? Krishna Das. And then I looked at him and I said, okay, you want me to be Bajrangbali? Okay, but you remember, Bajrangbali was the eternal celibate. He completely lost it. He cracked up. He was slapping his thighs. He was laughing so hard. It was like he knew something. And then he laughed. He said, okay, wise guy, you're Janaka. Janaka was Sita's father. He was a Raja Rishi, a king and a saint. You'll have yoga and bhog. Yoga with union with God and worldly enjoyments. So I'm waiting for the yoga. Just listen to your heart, live in your heart. Love is the only important thing for us. We don't have those rules and regulations. But if you're around people who would be upset with you, if there's no reason to confront people with these things. Keep it to yourself. If you go to a temple, do the right thing. If you go to some Indian person's house, behave yourself. You don't have anything to prove. But when you're on your own, worship the way you want. Here, this is a question. I don't have to read the whole question. This person is writing. This person says they're suffering. I'm in a constant state of displeasure from participating in the game of life. Sadly, I don't know a way out of it. but yet I continue to be a part of it. You know, whoever you are, you're telling yourself a story. It's a program that's running, and you believe it. You are not the story. You are not the storyline. You are not who you think you are. If you would try to find out who you are and who's having all these thoughts and emotions, these things wouldn't bother you so much. But you believe yourself. You believe your thoughts. That's insane. Totally insane. You believe what you think. You even think you're thinking those things. That's not what's happening. Thoughts are floating through the awareness of your mind like clouds, and you get stuck on them. Do some practice. Or it's just going to be one program, one storyline after the other until your next life. And then it just go on. Do something. There's no game of life that you're participating in. You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to do a few things. No problem. But you don't have to be identified with that stuff. You don't, that stuff, your negative emotions don't have to push you around. But right now, they own you. And only you can do something about it. I have to live through my karmas. Bullshit. You don't have to live through your karmas like this. You can be happy right now, regardless of what's going on in the outside world. Your karmas have nothing to do with the outside world. Well, I don't mean that. What I mean is that you don't have to be psychologically destroyed by what happens in the outside world. Whatever happens in the outside world doesn't have to own you. But right now, you have no say. You have no will. You have no center of gravity. You're just blown away by everything that goes on. So do something. Oh, so now you say, chanting has become my saving grace for now. Well, what the fuck are you complaining about if you're chanting? Chant more, but don't chant to avoid suffering. Chant, pay attention to the sound of the name. When you notice you're thinking, when you notice you're in a cloud of nonsense, come back. Again and again and again and again and again. Maharaji said, go on repeating the name, go on repeating the lying false name. One of these days, we'll really call out and the real Ram will come. But you have to call out and you have to continue to call out. And one of these days, it'll be the true call and the real Ram will come. And that's for sure. So be where you are when you're chanting, at least. The rest of the day, be stupid. Don't even think about it. But when you're doing your practice, really try to be there. Really try to do it. Don't do too much because you'll get tired and you get involved with ambition and aggressiveness and trying to get something. Just do enough to slow down, to get present for a second, to touch this moment. Again and again and again and again. And then these stories over time won't stick to you like this. Basically, I think I'm still the same schmuck I've always been, okay? However, I don't think it that often. But when I do think it, it's the same schmuck that I've always been. But the thought doesn't even arise most of the time anymore. I don't know why. It went somewhere else. Maybe it went to you. All right. We gotta go. We gotta sing. Yeah. When you chant, chant. Try to be present, try to pay attention, try not to be lost in thought all the time. Try to be where you are. That's the moment of practice. This is our time where we can let go of everything. So if we try to do too much, we get exhausted psychologically, and we start trying too hard, and we think something has to happen, and it's not happening. It's not like that. Just the fact that we're chanting is happening, and that's a big thing. Is it better to learn and practice the Hanuman Chalisa in a chaotic environment? If it's going on, it's going on. You pay attention to it, you do your job. When you start doing these practices, those mantras will come to you during the day. And a lot of times you won't even notice. But gradually you begin to notice that, you're in the middle of something and you start kind of hearing the sound in your mind, the name, some melody or some singing in your mind, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Hare Krishna, whatever. That's good. That's good. Om Shri Matre Namah. Om Shri Matre Namah. Jembe Gari Jeshama Gari. Om Shri Matre Namah. Om Shri Matre Namah. Om Shri Matre Namah. Jembe Gari Jeshama Gari. Om Shri Matre Namah. Om Shri Matre Namah. Jambegari Jai Shama Gari Om Shri Matre Namah Om Shri Matre Matre Namah Jambegari Jai Shama Gari Om Shri Matre Matre Om Shri Matre Namah Jambegari Jai Shama Gari Matre Om Shri Matre Om Shri Matre Jambegari Jai Shama Gari Om Shri Matre Om Shri Matre Namah Jambegari Jai Shama Gari Om Shri Matre Om Matre Om Matre Jambegari Jai Shama Gari Om Shri Matre Matre Namah Om Shri Matre Namah Jambegari Jai Shama Gari Matre Namah. Om Shri Matre Namah. Jambegari Jeshagari. Om Shri Matre Namah. Jai Jagarambe, Jai Jai Jagarambe, Ema Durga, Ema Durga, Jai Jagarambe, Jai Jai Jagarambe, Ema Durga, Ema Durga, Jai Jagarambe, Jai Jai Jagarambe, Ema Durga, Ema Durga, Jai Jagarambe, Jai Jagarambe, Ema Durga, Ema Durga, Jai Jagarambe, Jai Jai Jagarambe, Ema Durga, Ema Durga, Jai Jagarambe, Jai Jagarambe, Ema Hema Durga Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja Nijamana Mukuru Sudhari Barano Raghubara Vimala Jasu Chodayaku Palachari Buddhin Tanu Janike Sumeron Pavana Kumar Siaram Balabuddhi Vidya Dehu Mohi Ardhu Kale Sabika Siyavara Ramachandra Kodaje Sharanam Jaya Hanuman Gyana Guna Saga Jai Kapisati Hun Loka Ujaga Ramaduta Tulita Baladama Anjani Putra Pavana Sutana Mahavir Vikram Bajrangi Kumati Nivara Sumati Ke Sangi Kanchana Varana Viraja Subesa Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesa Hatha Vajra Uradvaja Viraje Kande Munja Jane Usaja Shankara Suvana Kesari Nandana Teja Pratapa Mahajagaban Vidyavan Guni Ati Chaturamakancha Karibe Koatu Prabhu Charitra Sunibe Korasya Ramalakana Sita Manavasi Sukshma Rupa Daresya Indekava Vikata Rupa Dare Lanka Jarava Bhima Rupa Dare Asura Sanhare Ramachandra Ke Kaja Sanvar Lai Sanjivana Lakana Jiyaye Shri Raghuveer Harshir Lai Raghupati Kinhi Bahut Barai Tumma Mama Priya Bharatai Samabhai Sahasabadana Tumaro Jasa Gavan Asakahi Shri Pati Kanta Laga Sanakadika Brahmadi Munisa Narada Sharada Sahita Hisa Yamakuve Digapala Jahante Kavi Kobita Kaisake Kahante Tuma Upakara Sugriva Hinkinha Rama Melaya Rajapadadina Tumaro Mantra Bibhishanamana Lankeshwara Bhai Sabba Jagajana Yuga Sahasra Yojana Parabhanu Ilyotahi Madhura Palajana Prabhu Mudrika Mele Mukamahi Jaladilangi Gaye Achara Janai Durga Makaja Jagat Ke Jete Sugam Anugraha Tumare Te Ram Duvare Marakavare Hotana Agya Binu Pesare Sabur Sukla Hai Tumhari Sharana Tumhara Chakka Kahu Kodaran Apana Teja Samaro Ape Tino Loka Hankaten Kampe Bhutta Pesasha Nakatan Hiyave Mahavira Jabanam Sunave Naseroga Hare Sabapira Japata Nirantara Hanumatabira Sankatate Hanuman Churave Manakrama Bachana Dhyana Jolave Sabapara Rama Tapasvi Raja Tina Ke Kaja Sakala Tumasaja Ora Manoratha Joko Vilave Sove Amita Jivana Palapave Charon Yuga Paratapa Tumhara Hai Parasidha Jagata Ujiyara Sadhu Santake Tumara Kavare Asura Nikandana Rama Dulare Ashta Siddhi No Nidhi Ke Data Asavara Dina Janki Mata Rama Rasayana Tumare Pasa Sadaraho Raghupati Ke Dasa Tumare Bhajana Rama Ko Pave Janam Janam Ke Dukha Bisarave Anta Kala Raghuvara Pura Jai Jahan Janma Hare Bhakta Kahai Order Devata Chitana Darai Hanumata Se Sava Sukha Kare Sankat Kate Mite Sab Pira Jo Sumere Hanumata Balabira Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai Kripa Karo Gurudeva Kinai Jo Satabara Patakara Koi Chutahi Bandi Mahasukahoi Yoya Pare Hanuman Chalisa Hoya Siddhi Saki Garisa Tulasi Dasa Sada Hari Chera Ki Jainata Hridaya Mahandira Pavanatanaya Sankataharana Mangalamurati Rup Siyaram Ramalakana Sita Sahita Hridaya Surabhupa Siyavara Ramachandra Paraje Sharanam Mangalamurti Marutanandan Sakala Mangalamula Nikanda Mangalamurti Marutanandan Sakala Mangalamula Nikanda Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Sitaram Sitaram Jai Jai Sitaram 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 Jai Jai Sitaram Sitaram Ram Lakshman Janaki Jai Bolo Hanuman Ki 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 Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri 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 Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. 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 May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy and free from suffering. And may we all live in peace and at ease of heart. At ease of heart with whatever comes to us in life. Namaste.